what should America's foreign policy be toward Russia and Ukraine? And here I think if you fair-mindedly look at it, there's a little bit of, you're pulled in two opposite directions. On the one hand, you want to say, listen, Ukraine couldn't be more remote from America. It's really far away. And number two, what are our national interests in the Ukraine exactly? Can Ukraine be counted on to rush to our defense if America was somehow mortally threatened? No. Is Ukraine a country like Saudi Arabia that supplies vital oil that America depends on or has depended on for the past half century or more? No. So what are we undertaking these risks for exactly? Let's remember our democratically elected leaders are elected by us to look out for us, to protect our interests and our welfare. So on the one hand, this is a case for keeping hands off, staying out of it. But on the other hand, there is the sense that America is a country that stands for freedom. The Ukrainians are, in fact, fighting for their freedom and their own survival. And so there is an element of our conscience and our values that say, let's do what we can to help. One thing that I find a little bit odd is the way in which the Biden administration thinks that other countries that aren't helping are somehow being bad actors, even though, as I say, there is a case for and against, even domestically. One of the great countries that's misbehaving in this area, and it's a big embarrassment for the United States, is India. And it's an embarrassment because India is a democracy. In fact, by population, a bigger democracy than the United States. So here's Biden trying to say, well, democracies are on one side, the autocracies on the other. And here's India's big democracy. And they're like, we don't care. So Biden's apparently, and the Biden people are kind of annoyed at India. They've even talked about doing sanctions against India. So this is a good way to sort of poison your own allies and turn even your friends against you. But let's think about why India is acting this way. Well, quite simply, the Indians are looking at the Ukraine and they're like, listen, we have a kind of moral sympathy for what's going on in Ukraine. We do think that this Russian invasion is an outrage. It violates, of course, Ukrainian sovereignty. But, and this is the very big but, again, what is Ukraine to India? India is not a country that is in a position to basically be taking positions and involving itself in everybody's affairs in the world. In fact, somebody made the astute observation that India's foreign policy toward the Ukraine is exactly the same as what the American founders believed America's foreign policy should be toward every other country. Basically, the American founders said, listen, America is a new country. It is a country that is finally kind of coming up in the world. Why on earth do we want to risk our safety and our treasure getting involved in other people's fights? Leave it alone. It's none of our business. Stay out of it. If the European powers want to knock each other out, be my guest. We have nothing to do with it. Now, of course, if they want to come and intervene and exercise their power in our backyard or threaten our own territory, that's a whole different matter. But otherwise, our goal as a country is to grow, is to gain strength, is to maintain a sort of prudent non-involvement in other people's fights. And this is basically India's position. India's position is not pro-Putin so much as it is, look, we need Russian oil. We're buying Russian oil. And we are not in the same position as Americans to pay 2 times, 3 times, 4 times the price of oil just because our leaders go, you know what, let's just get involved in Ukraine. Let's just sign up. No, the Indians don't want to go. They don't want to be involved. And what they want to do is build their own country and build the lives of their own people, many of whom are starting from the very bottom of the heap. So I mentioned the Indian example only because it's instructive from the point of view of America's own history. And that's a history that we need to contemplate now as we think about what to do, not about countries that are in our vital interest. That's a whole different matter. We're not talking about invasions here of Germany or France or Canada. We're talking about a country that is quite distant from our own, not only our own shores, but also our own security, our own freedom, and our own welfare.